Do you realize that was... No, they don't realize this. But if you actually read the Constitution, you can actually see that was added later. What do you mean it was added later? Well, you see, the Founding Fathers, these men, many of them from the North and many of them from the South, and some from in between, they wanted to form a unified country, or they wanted to unify, have a union, because they feared, rightfully so, that if they did not, that if they were to be 13 separate little countries, all by their lonesome, that they would be picked off one by one by foreign nations such as England, France, Spain. Hell, even the Dutch could have been a threat. So they wanted to form a strong bond with one another. So after the Constitution was written, that 3/5 person wasn't in there. But see, the South was afraid that this Constitution would genuinely give black slaves freedom and the right to vote. They didn't want that. Well, if all men are created equal, notice they didn't change that. If all men are created equal, the only way you can get around that, and the southern states saw this, the only way they could get around this is by saying, well, you know, they're not fully human. But then there was the Emancipation Proclamation. Then there were amendments that were added to the Constitution that stated all men were created equal, all men were free, and that nobody else should be able to interfere with somebody else. But because it wasn't clarified enough, I guess, the Southern Democrats began to make laws and say, no, this isn't against the Constitution. We're still following the Constitution. Equal but separate. That's what came about. Equal but separate. Brought about by the Democrats. By the Southern Dixiecrats. Equal but separate. Now, we know that separate wasn't very equal, but that's what they said. That's how they got away with it. You know, hey, the Constitution doesn't say that we have to meld together. We're just equal. Okay, fine. You know, all men are created equal, black and white, great. But we're separate. And we don't want to come in contact with them. They felt it was their constitutional right that they didn't have to come in contact with blacks. Now, they couldn't stop blacks from mingling and meandering throughout their towns, so they figured, well, you know what? I ain't got to dine with them. I don't got to eat with them. I don't have to worship with them. I don't have to drink with them. And we can make laws that says, oh, you can have your own diners, and you can have your own churches, and you can have your own water fountain. But that was the Southern Democrats doing that. And then people said, you know what? I guess we have to clarify it more. And guess who stood in the way of that? Southern Democrats. Hell, even the Democrats' favorite, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Don't get me wrong about John now. He wasn't a bad president. But here's a man who wasn't interested in the civil rights. Here's a man that wanted the civil rights movement to stop before it even got started. He wanted everybody on those buses to go home. In fact, he sent out people to tell people from the White House to tell them, please, man, please don't do this. Don't go any further. Don't go into this city. Don't go further into Georgia. Don't go into Alabama. Don't go. Go home. And they said, no offense, but we're going forward. Kennedy didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then you had LBJ. Oh, LBJ, yeah, he signed it, and you had all these Northern Democrats coming in on it and made it possible. No. I mean, Frozine is old enough to know better. At least I think she is. But I can tell you some people who were alive during that time period. My parents. Now, although they did like JFK, they have no love for LBJ. They know who he was. They know. In fact, of the people in my family of that around that age that were adults back at that time, none of them. I mean, they've got pictures of JFK in their homes, alongside Martin Luther King and Jesus Christ. But they don't have anything of LBJ. No, let me tell you something about blacks pretty much loathed that man. They didn't like LBJ. They didn't trust him. Oh, he was a good old boy. Yeah, I know he was from Texas, but he was still a good old boy. LBJ, while in the Senate in the 50s, helped block civil rights. People don't realize that. That's just I'm here to protect the Constitution because I know what the original intent was. Regardless of a bunch of Southern Democratic white people twisting it into meaning something it doesn't mean, they're doing it to this day. Oh, wait a minute. Where's the story? I got a story here. Here we go. Judge finds North Carolina choose life license plates unconstitutional. A federal judge has ruled that it's unconstitutional for North Carolina to issue pro-life license plates unless the state offers similar plates supporting abortion rights. U.S. District Court Judge James C. Fox ruled last Friday that North Carolina cannot produce or distribute the Choose Life plate. Now, Judge Fox concluded, not any relation to Jamie Foxx, by the way, who said on last Saturday's Saturday Night Live, he gets to kill white people. Judge Fox concluded the state's offering of a Choose Life license plate in the absence of a pro-choice plate constitutes viewpoint discrimination in violation of the First Amendment. So instead of ordering the state to what? Oh, make a pro-choice plate. What's he do? He prevents the state from distributing a pro-life plate. Hello? What if you're out there to protect people's rights, First Amendment rights, why is a judge saying that you can't say something? Why isn't he saying, well, if they can say it, so can they? Now notice the difference between what this judge is saying and what I'm saying. The judge says that North Carolina cannot have a plate, cannot have a Choose Pro-Life plate. The judge did not say, well, since you have a pro-life plate, you must have a pro-choice option plate. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. The American Civil Liberties Union of North Carolina's legal foundation had filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina back in September of 2011 on behalf of North Carolinians seeking a specialty license plate that supports a woman's right to reproductive freedom. How about just plain old murder? I know. Look, that's what it is, folks. I'm sorry if I offend some people, especially those who want to choose pro-choice. Crap, that's not pro-choice. It's pro-murder. Now, I have come down on the side of life I don't know how many times, and that's the fact. I don't care if you believe in God or not. The logical fact is that unborn child is still a human life and is alive. Well, they can't survive outside the womb. Well, neither can a baby. Baby can't survive outside the womb either without the mother or father or somebody helping it. So what now? Are we going to say that a newborn isn't yet human? How about a 2-year-old? They can't take care of themselves either. A 10-year-old maybe? What are we going to say that you got to be 18 so you can take care of yourself? Well, there are some kids that can take care of themselves at 12. And some kids that can't take care of themselves at 26. So when does human life begin? Oh, when at birth. Why? Because then it can survive. No, it can't. That's also a misnomer. A baby, a newborn baby, cannot survive outside the womb on its own. Can't. It's impossible. There's got to be a parent. I don't care if it's a natural parent or a surrogate parent. There's still got to be a mother, if you will, to take care of the child. It's just hypocritical nonsense. They're not about choice. They're about murder. Plain and simple. And they've convinced blacks to murder more babies than are actually born and live. But again, we don't have a choice, do we? No, we don't have it's judge isn't giving him a choice. He's saying instead of, well, you can't restrict somebody else's speech, the judge says, I'm going to restrict your speech instead. When he should have ordered North Carolina to offer a pro-choice plate. And it'd be wonderful to see what people would buy and display a pro-choice plate, pro-murder. Very interesting to see. I don't do all those vanity plates anyway. I mean, you're giving extra money to the state for no reason. So what? So you can be vain about something? Please, make a statement some other place. You don't need to make a statement on your license plate. Remember, it's not your plate. You're just renting. It still belongs to the state. Anybody hear about them wanting to put those little, speaking of, automobiles, those little, well, they're not black, but little black boxes on your car? And how the Department of Transportation is considering making this mandatory in all 2016 models. Like, hell, if I bought a new car and knew that was on my car and I knew where it was, I'd be taking it off. I'm not flying a plane. And the last thing because even if you are not at fault in an accident, they're going to be looking at that data and determining that somehow you were a bad driver. Don't doubt me, folks. It's not about your safety. Trust me. And this judge is obviously not about, is not about pro-First Amendment. Trust me. Don't doubt me when it comes to the liberals and the left. Even if they're a judge, they're still about socialism, control. That's why I say I've got a constitution, and I am not afraid to protect